I want to welcome everyone to our inaugural Securing Your World web series. My name is Latia James. I'm the Brand Strategy Director for Heritage Digital. And as we know, there's been a lot going on in the space of technology. Things are evolving at breakneck pace, and there's always new threats emerging. That's why we wanted to bring the topic today, securing your digital footprint. Today is part one of our four-part series, and we are so fortunate to be able to partner with our ConnectWise partners who have helped us secure Natalie Suarez as our presenter. Natalie has over 25 years of experience in both cybersecurity and systems engineering. She provides solutions to some of the most demanding clients, including the Department of Defense and Fortune 100 companies. I do want to remind everybody to please post your questions in the Q&A section, and we'll answer those in section 3. So at this time, we'll turn it over to our speaker, Natalie Suarez.
Well, hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are at. So today we're going to talk about what does internet safety look like for a small to mid-sized business. So, well, why are we here? Well, about 82% of ransomware actually targets small businesses, and that is according to the University of Maryland. So I'm going to give you some tips and some examples. So some of this, I'm going to bet you guys know already. But if you have any questions, let us know, and we will do our best to answer them. So what is this list about? First thing, keep your software updated. Many times updates for your software, including your operating systems or even your firmware for your printers or your copiers or other devices you have in your office, often contain security updates. Require strong passwords. There's lots of information widely available on what constitutes a strong password. Me personally, unless the system doesn't allow it, my passwords are all at least 20 characters long. And I include uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and special characters. Now, how do I remember these crazy long passwords? That leads me to the next thing. Use a password manager. Password managers are a money saver. And why do I say they're a money saver? Because when you use a password manager, it allows you to manage your passwords easier, right? Easier to change your passwords. It keeps you from using the same password in multiple areas. And once you learn how to use one, it actually makes everything faster for you to manage those passwords. And time is money. On top of password managers, unfortunately, these days, we need to use multi-factor authentication. And you may be saying, well, great, but that's going to cost me time. But guess what? The 30 seconds it's going to take you to get that MFA code on your phone or in your app or on your hardware token key is really going to save you from a lot of heartache in the future. I don't know if you heard in the news about not too long ago, people were losing access to their LinkedIn accounts. And just think of the damage a bad guy could do to your digital footprint if he or she added information or took information away from your LinkedIn profile and you weren't able to get that back from LinkedIn. And if you use something like multi-factor authentication, you're much better protected. And yes, there are different types of multi-factor and some are better than others, but we can't share all of that in 15 minutes. If you want to hear more about that, I'd suggest you contact my friends at Heritage Digital. You should be securing your Wi-Fi and your routers, making sure that you're not using default passwords. You shouldn't use unsecure Wi-Fi, and I'm talking to you road warriors. You shouldn't be using that Wi-Fi in that hotel or in that airport. And sometimes I understand because I'm a road warrior as well, you might have to. And if you do, use a VPN, a virtual private network. That is a piece of software you can put on your computer that encrypts all communication so no spying eyes can see what you're doing. Now, what is the next thing I would recommend? I would recommend security awareness training. Now, when I talk about security awareness training, I'm also talking about using it to create a good culture of cybersecurity. And, I've been asked this many times in the past, so I'm going to ask myself a question. What exactly is this good culture of cybersecurity? Well, let's put it this way. We're all busy. We're all multitasking, and the bad guys know that. So that's why every time you see some kind of phishing email or, some kind of, request to scan a QR code, it's always with this sense of urgency, right? And sometimes people who've been taking that security awareness training and actually know better, they make a mistake and they click on something they shouldn't click on. And if you have a good culture of cybersecurity, they're going to know who to go to. They're going to say, "Oh, I'm not fearful that I'm going to lose my job. I'm not fearful that I'm going to be made fun of." But maybe you'll be made fun of in good spirits, right? But they're not concerned that they're going to be ostracized, because it's really important if someone makes a mistake and scans that QR code using company issued equipment or clicks on that link in that email, that they know exactly who to go to and they're not afraid of being reprimanded for that. So it's really important if someone does something bad that you take care of it right away. So if someone clicks on a link in a phishing email and shares their password, what are you going to do? You're going to go into, if you use Microsoft, you're going to go into your Microsoft 365 tenant. You're going to log them out from everywhere. You're going to have them reset up their multi-factor authentication. You're going to have them change their password, and you're going to save yourself a lot of headache. Now, if you don't have a good culture of cybersecurity and someone clicks on something and they're afraid to tell you anything, best case scenario, you might be dealing with an incident, which means that someone compromised the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of your data assets. Worst case, you could be talking a breach where someone takes that data. They either encrypt all your data, they take it for sharing with others who shouldn't have it later, and that could be really bad. Now, what else does regular security awareness training give you? Well, it helps build that good culture, right? Because people know who to go to and what to do. If they see something, they say something. I know you all have heard that, right? And it's going to give you updates on new tech disruptors. Like, what would be a good tech disruptor? Let's see, what's a good, interesting tech disruptor? Maybe artificial intelligence. Now, I do like to say there is no intelligence in AI, because there's not. But there are some things you should be educating your employees on right now. I don't know about you guys. Latia seems like a rule follower, but I'm not. So, so if
Very much so.
someone tells me you better not do this, if I don't see it causing damage to others or to myself, I'm probably going to do it. So someone tells me, no, you can't use any AI for anything, I'm going to go, oh, what's this AI all about? Maybe I'm going to install ChatGPT on my work computer and start, running around with it, right? So I don't recommend that you ban things like that. I recommend that you create policies and procedures and training around the responsible use. Because, if you read the terms of something like ChatGPT, they'll tell you right in the terms that any data you put in there belongs to them. What does that mean? That means you shouldn't be sharing intellectual property. You shouldn't be sharing personally identifiable information. You shouldn't be sharing private healthcare information. You shouldn't share anything that you don't want the entire universe to know, right?
Right.
It's also a great time to reinforce and teach your staff how to fact check, because AI, believe it or not, can provide bad results. It is for two reasons. One, it's sucking up the internet. We know everything in the internet is not true, contrary to popular belief. And it also has something called data hallucinations. There's a particular attorney who actually provided some case law because he learned about ChatGPT from his kids, and turns out that the AI made up that case law. I see we have a question. What can I answer for you, sir?
Well, my question is, since you're talking about AI, how does it now cause a threat to internet security?
Well, because you're giving people access into your information. It could impact your digital footprint if you share IP. It could cause a data breach if you share PII or PHI. Who knows what the ramifications are if you're not fact checking and you're sharing everything you get from AI as ground truth, right? I mean, just look at that poor attorney. He got in a lot of trouble with the court, right? Also, another way is, you may have heard about this other story in the news recently, that a multinational corporation in Hong Kong lost $25 million US dollars. 25 million with an M, people. And the reason they lost 25 million is because somebody created a deep fake of their CFO, their chief financial officer. So they thought they were chatting, probably a Teams meeting with their chief financial officer, and he instructed them to send some funds, and they did it. And now they're out 25 million. Can you imagine? I mean, break that down. This is a multinational company. So what if it was your company and you lost 50K or 10K or 1K? I'd be heartbroken if I lost $100, right? But we're talking business ending amounts of money. And the way AI has allowed deepfake video and deepfake audio, you really need to put some policies and procedures in place to protect yourselves from that kind of thing. And share that through your security awareness training, right? Like simple things like if you do wire transfers with your bank, require your bank, if a wire transfer is over a certain amount, that you must go in person, and only these people are authorized to go in person and have that wire transfer occur. That would protect you from something like this, right? So what are some other things? Though I want to stay on AI, we'll move on. Obviously, regular data backups. Oh, Luke, you have another question. How can I help you?
Just real quick to ask. So I think, is it fair to say that, like, say, Chat GPT could be hacked just like Yahoo or Expedia with all your personal information that you put in there?
Yes, not only could it be hacked, it has been hacked multiple times. And this is a good argument for those password managers and multi-factor authentication. If I have good what happens is something like ChatGPT gets breached and your username and password then go to the dark web, to a database or file or whatever, wherever they choose to put it on the dark web, right? And then other bad guys buy that. And they do something we call credential stuffing, where they take those usernames and passwords because they know people aren't using password managers or MFA. And they're using the same username and password that they use for their corporate infrastructure on ChatGPT or Facebook or whatever. And then they just simply try those usernames and passwords everywhere they can, knocking on those doors until they get in somewhere. And they know they'll get in somewhere. And you know what? Even beyond that, interestingly enough, ChatGPT and those GPTs, those large language models, are extremely good at data analysis. And what does that mean? Not only can they get your username and password, but they've scraped up all this data on the internet. So anything that you have not made private or anything that's publicly available about you could be in these LLMs. And they can use that, and they are a probability engine, and calculate what is which of these people are most likely to still work at this location that I'm going after, which of these people is most likely to click on this phishing email, which of these people are most likely, if I want to make some story up about antique cars, are going to be interested and probably click, or about this new IT conference or this new AI conference. They're going to be able to make those calculations very quickly without having a human in the loop. They're really good at that type of stuff. Does that answer your question?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much.
Awesome. So what's another thing? In your business, you should be following the principle of least privilege. What does that mean? Maybe even go so far as zero trust, right? So that means that I am not surfing the interwebs, I say that tongue in cheek, with my credentials, my admin credentials. I only use my admin credentials or special credentials when I absolutely need them to do my job. Now, what zero trust means is that all entities are untrusted by default. And that doesn't just include people communications, that includes computer to computer communications. It does enforce the principle of least privilege, and also comprehensive security monitoring is implemented. So we can see what kind of logins are happening, what kind of privileges they have, what kind of communications are occurring. And that, because the thing is, the bad guys only have to get it once. We have to get it right every time. So if you have comprehensive security monitoring, you're going to be able to catch those bad guys much quicker and stop them from doing really bad damage, like maybe ransomware or harming your reputation by ransomware or other ways, right? By sharing your data, right? Data encryption is really important, right? What if a bad guy gets in, but your data is all encrypted and they can't decrypt it. That'd be great, right? So you should identify what type of data you have, classify it. What is my data that is the most critical to my business, or the most damaging if it were to be shared with the public, right? That is the data that you want to put the best protections on, right? Where there may be other data that's, just in the day-to-day of your business, like maybe your catalog of products that you offer, right? Your catalog's probably public information anyway, because you want people to buy your item or your services or whatever. So that wouldn't be as critical as that, your intellectual property, how you're making the product or how you're offering the service, right? What else is really important? Properly configuring your DNS, your domain name service. This can be thought of as the phone book of the internet, right? So make sure your DNS text records, TXT records, those are actually text records, like your DKIM, which is the digital signature. It's a way that we can verify the digital signatures to let the receiver know that the message was sent and authorized by the domain it came from, the owner of the domain. Your SPF records, that's your sender policy framework, because this lists all servers authorized to send mail for a particular domain, because SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, does not do the authentication, right? And DMARC, where DMARC is a domain-based method of reporting and configuration that tells a receiving mail server what to do if the DKIM or SPF checks fail. If one fails or both fails, do we quarantine the message? Do we reject the message? Or do we deliver the message? And, those are really, I would say that this, even though a long list, this is the fundamental way to keep yourselves safe on the internet as a small to mid-sized business.
Oh, well, Natalie, thank you so very much. I mean, you jammed a lot in those 15 minutes. Everything from the DNS to the zero trust, which I know a lot of people out there in the internet streets probably had questions about. Then the VPN and the password manager, that's a question that we always get asked. Then security awareness, that's something we just touched on in our social media site. So thank you for bringing that back up again. And I do want to remind everyone, please make sure you stay to the end of this 4-part series, because in section 4, Natalie is actually going to provide us with a nice list of quick action steps we can take. Want to remind everyone to come back next week, because even though today we were talking about internet safety, next week Natalie's going to be talking about how to check and protect your digital footprint. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful week. Thank you again, Natalie. Thank you,
Thank
Luke, for the
you.
wonderful questions.